welcome to a deep dive that's, well, it's really unlike any other we've done before.
Yeah.
Today we're going to crack open a digital time capsule, and well, it's from 2018, and it's actually just a single blog. It's called Foracabatry Business.
Oh, yeah. It's a really fascinating source, I think. It's like this curated collection of thoughts and, anxieties and fascinations, and it's all filtered through this really interesting lens of, like, esotericism and pop culture.
It's kind of like stumbling upon somebody's secret diary.
Yeah.
Except this one is filled with all these references to Vril and the Saturn Moon Matrix and a whole lot of Madonna.
It's definitely a unique mix. I mean, what's really intriguing to me is how Crabtree, the blog's creator, how they present it all. They use all these emojis like, and they even use stylized text. It's like they're using a secret code or something.
It really does make you wonder, is Crabtree serious, or are they being playful, or is it kind of a little bit of both? It's like they're inviting us into their world, but on their own terms.
Right, there's definitely like a deliberate sense of mystery to it. So I think our mission today is to really try to unravel that mystery. Like who is Crabtree? And what can this blog actually tell us about the cultural landscape back in 2018?
Okay, so let's start unpacking this digital treasure chest, shall we? So the blog itself is a mix of blog posts and pages, and there's even this really interesting section called Intersternado, and that's where things get really interesting.
The Intersternado is key. It's not just, a random list. It's very carefully curated. I mean, we've got esotericism kind of rubbing shoulders with all these conspiracy theories, and then celebrity gossip and all these pop culture references are swirling together.
It's giving me, like, serious information overload, but in a really good way. So let's start with the esoteric threads. This blog is, like, practically dripping with stuff about the occult and aliens and secret societies, you name it.
And it's not just, a surface-level interest in these things. Crabtree even mentions specific authors and books like the Rosicrucian Cosmo Conception and the Secret Book of John. So these are like deep dives into alternative spiritualities and, Gnosticism especially.
Gnosticism. I've heard that term before. But to be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on the details. Could you maybe give us a quick rundown?
Sure. So basically Gnosticism is like this collection of, ancient belief systems that emphasize personal spiritual knowledge and this kind of dualistic view of the world. They believe there's this like hidden higher reality that exists beyond our material existence, and that we can actually access that reality through, special knowledge or gnosis.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does all this connect back to Crabtree's blog?
Well, it seems like Crabtree is really weaving these Gnostic ideas into their understanding of everything, from conspiracy theories to, even pop culture. They even mention the Sophia figure a lot.
Sophia? Who's that?
So in Gnostic thought, Sophia represents divine wisdom and this kind of feminine energy. She's often seen as like the key to unlocking hidden knowledge and, escaping the limitations of the material world.
Interesting. So it's like Crabtree sees the world through these like Gnostic lenses, looking for hidden meanings and connections everywhere.
Precisely. And that theme of, seeking hidden knowledge that ties directly into their fascination with all these conspiracy theories, it's like they're looking for explanations that go beyond, those official narratives.
And that brings us to this term that keeps popping up, the Saturn Moon Matrix. I mean, it sounds like something out of like a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? So it's this whole conspiracy theory, and it suggests that, our reality is being manipulated by, forces that emanate from Saturn and its moon.
Wait, are you serious? Like Saturn is controlling our minds? I mean, how does that even work?
Well, Crabtree's not really, laying out a scientific argument for it or anything. It's more about connecting the dots between ancient mythology and esoteric symbols and, even modern events.
So it's like this giant puzzle where everything from like the black cube symbol to even the Borg cube from Star Trek is all somehow connected back to Saturn's like sinister influence.
You got it. And, this idea of control and manipulation, it kind of extends beyond just Saturn. Crabtree is also really suspicious of what they call pharmakeia.
Pharmakeia?
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like pharmaceuticals. Is Crabtree like anti-medicine?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's definitely more nuanced than that. They seem to be connecting modern medicine to these ancient practices of sorcery and, potion making. So it's like they're implying that there's this hidden agenda of control behind, big pharma.
So for Crabtree, it's not just about like, taking a pill to get better. It's about this deeper distrust of the systems and the institutions that control our lives.
Exactly. It's like they're seeing this pattern of, manipulation and control everywhere, and they're trying to expose it through this blog.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how all these, like, esoteric ideas connect to like this broader worldview, a sense of suspicion towards authority, and this like desire for hidden knowledge. But what about all this pop culture obsession? Like, what's with all this celebrity name dropping?
Well, it seems like Crabtree is viewing those celebrities through, this esoteric lens. It's as if they're like these players in this grand cosmic drama. We see all these mentions of Madonna and Michael Jackson and Oprah, these figures who hold a certain kind of cultural power.
So it's not just like a random fandom, It's about finding like deeper meaning and symbolism within like popular culture.
Right. It's as if they're looking for clues and, hidden messages within these pop culture figures. They're trying to decipher what their role is in, this larger narrative of like control and manipulation.
This is getting pretty wild. So we've got like Gnosticism and conspiracy theories and pop culture obsessions. It's like a mental roller coaster through Crabtree's mind. But, I think we're really scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
What else is lurking in the depths of a Crabtree visit?
That's a great question. And I think to really understand what's going on here, we need to, go beyond the surface. We need to delve deeper into Crabtree's world. We need to understand the context, the anxieties, the whole cultural landscape of 2018 that might have shaped, their unique perspective.
Okay. So let's dive into that. What was happening in the world back then that might have influenced Crabtree's worldview? So 2018, it feels like forever ago now. I mean, what was even the vibe back then?
Well, imagine like a world that's on the cusp of some really big changes. I mean, social media was just exploding and technology was advancing so quickly, and all these like traditional power structures were being challenged everywhere you look.
Oh yeah, we had the Trump presidency and like the rise of social media influencers, and there was all this anxiety about fake news and data privacy. It definitely felt like things were like shifting in this huge way.
Exactly. And in that context, it's not really a surprise that so many people were like seeking answers, trying to, make sense of a world that felt more and more uncertain and chaotic.
So Crabtree's like fascination with all these conspiracy theories and this esoteric knowledge, it wasn't happening like in a vacuum or anything. It was a reflection of, what was going on at the time.
Precisely. I mean, their blog is like this fascinating case study in how individuals grapple with those anxieties and try to find meaning in a world that feels increasingly complex.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Yep.
But let's zoom back in on Crabtree's world for a second. We've talked about their interest in the Saturn Moon Matrix and Pharmakeia, but there are these other recurring themes that I'm curious about. Like, what's the deal with all the specific films and documentaries that they mention?
Yeah, that's a great observation. It seems like Crabtree isn't just passively consuming pop culture or anything. They're like actively interpreting it through this esoteric lens, like they're finding all these hidden meanings and connections that support their whole worldview.
Can you maybe give us some examples?
Sure. So they mention films like The Matrix and Dark Secrets of the Wizard of Oz, which both kind of feed into this idea that there's this hidden reality behind, the facade of everyday life. It's like they're looking for confirmation of their beliefs in, the pop culture narrative.
So The Matrix isn't just like a cool sci-fi action flick for Crabtree. It's like this reflection of this larger conspiracy that they actually believe in.
Right. And then you have documentaries like The Confessions of Bernhard Goetz, which is a film about vigilantism and this kind of urban paranoia. So it seems to tap into Crabtree's anxieties about personal safety and, like societal breakdown.
It's almost like they're curating these films and documentaries to create like a narrative.
Yeah.
Like a kind of supporting evidence for their worldview.
Exactly. And it's not just, visual media either. Music plays a pretty big role in Crabtree's world too. They mention artists like Fleetwood Mac and Tori Amos and Lady Gaga. It's a pretty eclectic mix.
It really makes you wonder what kind of playlist Crabtree was listening to back in 2018. Was it all like dark and brooding, or were there like moments of levity and hope in there too?
That's a fascinating question, and unfortunately the blog doesn't give us like a complete track list, but we definitely get these hints that music is serving as this kind of emotional soundtrack to their exploration of all these, esoteric themes.
Speaking of emotional soundtracks, there are these moments in the blog where Crabtree drops these little personal glimpses into their life, like that anecdote about, the Dallas party scene in the 90s. It feels so out of place amidst all these conspiracy theories and occult symbolism.
It does, doesn't it? But I think those little personal glimpses are so crucial to understanding Crabtree as like a whole person. I mean, they remind us that there's this real individual behind this, digital persona. Someone who's actually lived a life, full of experiences that have shaped how they see things.
It kind of humanizes them, It's easy to get caught up in all like the esoteric ideas and forget that we're talking about an actual person who's trying to make sense of the world just like all of us.
Exactly. And those personal glimpses also raise these really interesting questions about the relationship between Crabtree's online persona and their offline life. Are they like living these esoteric beliefs in their day-to-day life, or is the blog more of just like an intellectual exploration, a way of processing, their anxieties and finding meaning in like this chaotic world?
That's a great question, and it's something that we might not ever have like a definitive answer to, but I think it speaks to this much bigger theme of how we all curate our identities online. We choose what to reveal and what to conceal, and how we present ourselves to the world.
Right, and in Crabtree's case, the blog becomes this, carefully constructed digital self-portrait, a reflection of their interests and their anxieties, and maybe even like their aspirations. It's like a way of saying, this is who I am, this is what I think, this is what I believe in.
And in a world that can feel so isolating and fragmented, maybe creating this online persona is a way of connecting with other people who share like similar interests and beliefs. It's like building this little digital tribe around these, esoteric ideas.
I think you're onto something. And it reminds us that all these digital spaces, however niche or unusual they may seem, can serve as these really powerful tools for connection and community building.
It also makes me think about how we interpret all these digital traces that are left behind. It's like we're these digital archaeologists piecing together the fragments of someone's online life to create like a larger narrative, a portrait of who they were and what they believed in.
That's a great analogy, and it really highlights how important context is when we're trying to understand, these digital artifacts. We can't just look at the content in isolation. We need to consider the cultural landscape and the historical moment and, the individual's personal experiences that have shaped their perspective.
Okay, so we've explored Crabtree's esoteric interests and their pop culture connections and their little personal glimpses. But there's one more piece of this digital puzzle that we haven't really touched on yet, and that's the Share I Map Wiki section. It feels so different from the rest of the blog, almost like a glimpse into a totally different side of Crabtree's mind.
Yeah, it's definitely an intriguing piece of the puzzle. And I think it's like a key to understanding how Crabtree's anxieties about control and manipulation kind of extend beyond the realm of, conspiracy theories and into the very real world of technology and artificial intelligence.
So it's like their esoteric beliefs are colliding with their interest in cutting-edge technology.
Exactly. And I think this section reveals like a deeper layer of anxiety about the future, a real concern about, the potential for technology to be used for both good and evil.
It's almost like they're trying to reconcile their fascination with like the power of technology, with their fear of its potential to be used for control and manipulation.
Right. And in a way, this reflects like a broader societal anxiety that was emerging in 2018, this growing awareness of the potential downsides of like this rapid technological advancement.
So Crabtree's anxieties weren't just personal. They were tapping into this like collective unease about the direction the world was heading in.
Precisely. And by examining how they explore these anxieties through like the lens of esotericism and technology, we gain this much deeper understanding of, that complex cultural landscape of 2018 and how individuals were trying to grapple with all the challenges of this rapidly changing world.
It's amazing how this one single blog, this digital time capsule, can offer such a rich and nuanced perspective on, a particular moment in time.
It is, isn't it? And as we move towards the final part of our deep dive, I think it's important to consider what we can learn from, Crabtree's digital journey. Mm-hmm. How do their anxieties resonate with our own experiences today? And what insights can we gain from examining their unique way of navigating, all the complexities of the world?
That's a great question, and one that I'm sure our listeners will be pondering as we continue to unravel all the mysteries of Crabtree Busy. So we've talked about like all of Crabtree's esoteric interests and their fascination with pop culture and those really intriguing personal glimpses they offer, and we even went pretty deep into the world of AI and the anxieties that it kind of provokes. But as we're putting together all the pieces of this really strange digital puzzle, I keep coming back to like the same question. Like, what is the point of all of this? Why did Crabtree even create Crabtree Busy in the first place?
Yeah, it's definitely a question worth thinking about. And, I actually think that the answer might be in that very active curation. Like, this blog, it's not just some random jumble of thoughts, It's like this carefully constructed, digital self-portrait.
So you're saying it's intentional. Like that Crabtree was really trying to craft this image, like a persona for the whole world to see.
I think that there's definitely an element of that in there. Remember that Interest or Not section? It's like Crabtree is saying, this is me, this is all the stuff I think about, this is what matters to me.
And it's like the way that they present it all, with all the emojis and the really stylized text. It's like they're adding this layer of mystique. Like they're inviting us into their world, but like only on their own terms.
Exactly. It's like a way of controlling how the story is told, of, shaping how other people are going to perceive them. And it's something that we see like all the time online, I think. We're so careful about how we curate our social media profiles, and we choose what we're going to share and what we're not going to share, and we end up crafting this image that reflects, how we want to be seen by other people.
So it's not even just about expressing yourself, it's also about making sure that people see it the way you want them to see it.
Right. And in the case of Crabtree, I think there's this element of self-protection there, too. By presenting, this really curated persona, they're kind of shielding themselves from any kind of judgment, and they're creating this safe space where they can, explore their interests without worrying about being ridiculed.
It makes me think about how we all use the internet to connect with, people who share our same interests, especially when those interests are kind of niche. Or maybe even a little taboo. It's like we're all trying to find our tribe in this huge digital landscape.
That's a great point. And it highlights how these digital spaces can really empower individuals to connect with other like-minded people and, find community and belonging. And it's probably in ways that might not have even been possible in the offline world.
But even though it seems like Crabtree's really trying to control how the story is told, there's still something kind of vulnerable about, sharing these really deep and personal thoughts and anxieties online. It's like they're inviting us into their inner world, even if it is, a carefully curated version of it.
Absolutely. And I think that vulnerability is a big part of what makes this blog so fascinating. It's this reminder that behind, every digital persona, there's an actual person, with their own hopes and fears and, just all their own complexities.
Okay, so we've explored, Crabtree's reasons for making the blog, but what about like the bigger picture? Can we even use this blog to try to understand something about the culture back in 2018, like the anxieties and the aspirations of that really specific moment in time?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Remember all those themes we've been talking about, like that distrust of authority and the search for meaning and all those anxieties about technology. I mean, those weren't just unique to Crabtree. They reflected this much bigger, cultural shift that was happening in 2018.
Right. It was a time of so much political division, and technology was changing so fast, and it felt like everyone was uncertain about the future. It's not really surprising that people were turning to conspiracy theories and all these alternative spiritualities to try to make sense of, what was happening.
Exactly. And in a way, Crabtree's blog becomes this little microcosm of all those cultural anxieties. It's a window into how people were trying to, deal with all the complexities of a world that was changing really fast.
It's almost like their, digital footprint is this kind of unintentional, historical document, like a snapshot of one moment in time. And by really examining it closely, we can start to understand all the forces that shaped, our world.
Yeah, that's a really powerful insight. And it highlights how even these really personal digital spaces can have like this much broader cultural significance. They can offer, really valuable insights into all those anxieties and aspirations that we all share, in any given era.
Okay, so we've made this journey through this fascinating and often very bewildering world of Crabtree Busy. We explored all this esotericism and pop culture and even personal anxieties. And we even, went deep into the world of AI and everything.
Yeah.
But as we come to the end of this really strange deep dive, I'm left with one final thought.
Ooh, what's that?
What story does our own digital footprint actually tell? What will future generations actually learn about us based on, all the traces that we leave behind online? It's a little sobering when you think about it, but it's also kind of exciting. We all have the power to, shape our own digital legacy, to really curate, our own stories for the world to see.
Yeah, that's a really powerful way to wrap up this deep dive. And I hope it encourages, everyone listening to think a little more critically about their own online presence and, what stories they're sharing with the world, whether it's intentional or not,
Yeah.
through all those digital footprints that they leave behind.
Thanks for coming along with us on this fascinating exploration. And until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring all those hidden worlds that are all around us.